So just to reintroduce myself, if you didn't hear earlier, my name's Melissa. I'm a graduate student in the Biomedical Sciences graduate program here at UCSF. I'm also the president of the SACNAS chapter here on campus. I have also given the NSF writing workshop at SF State, so I recognize a few faces. So you're going to hear from me again. So 2 weeks ago, you learned about the graduate school application process and asking for letters of recommendation. And then what you're going to learn about today is what is probably the most critical component of your application, which is the statement of purpose. So what is the statement of purpose? You can describe it as sort of like a personal statement of where you weave in your past research experiences, your academic history, personal experiences, and your future and academic and career goals and ambitions. Why do you want to go to graduate school? It tends to be about 2 to 3 pages in length. It's just dependent on the particular graduate program that you're applying to. The length is what's not important, but the content is. I mean, if you can get your point across in 2 pages versus the 3 pages, that's more important. It's a chance for you to tell your story, and this is probably the only part in your application where you will have that opportunity. This is an opportunity for you to talk about your significant works, accomplishments, your experiences, and connect them to how this is going to help you advance your future goals and ambitions. And your goal throughout this statement of purpose should be to stand out to the people who will be reviewing it. How can you make yourself stand out from the crowd? Your audience. So who is going to be reviewing your personal statement, your applications? And they tend to be faculty. So people who actually have research labs, who conduct research, they're going to be the ones who will be reviewing your statement of purpose. Most people on these application committees are actually looking for students in their labs, so it's possible that somebody that you may be really interested in working with may actually be reading your application. So, and you want to think of trying to convince the faculty member why you belong at this institution and in their lab. Why specifically do you want to come to this school? What do you bring to the table? How will your experiences help shape the diversity of experiences at this institution? And do your ambitions fit with theirs? Your audience, what are they looking for? Primarily, if you are motivated to do a PhD for the right reasons, and if you want to do a PhD, it's because you're really interested in doing scientific research, advancing scientific discovery. You're interested in developing hypotheses and learning how to test those hypotheses and the skill set that comes with doing that. And for some people who may not be interested in going into academia, you may want to do a PhD because you need a PhD to pursue the career ladder in different fields, whether that be to industry, even science policy, university administration. For a lot of those positions, you need a PhD. So it's not just for becoming a professor at an institution. Yeah. So additionally, what is your audience looking for? They're looking for whether you can communicate your science clearly and effectively. No one knows your research better than you, so it's important for you to convey that to the faculty clearly. I mean, they may have a general sense of what you're doing, but it's important for you to describe to them what the big picture goals of your research are, what the question is, how did you go about answering those questions, what did you learn from that experience. We're learning more and more how extremely important science communication is in scientific research to the science community and to the non-scientific community. So here's an opportunity for you to show your skill set in that. And are you uniquely poised to contribute something to this institution based on your research experiences? So what is the overall structure of the statement of purpose? Probably the first component is the introduction. This is an opportunity for you to introduce yourself to the faculty. Most people tend to start off this part of the statement with a little bit about yourself, why you got interested in science. Maybe you had a particular science experience in your childhood or even during high school and college, which made you decide I'm really interested in doing science research. So this is where most people tend to catch their committee here in this introduction. ugh. So the bulk of the statement of purpose will be where was the body, and that's where you'll be describing like your main goals and motivations for pursuing a PhD. Here you'll talk about like your different research experiences, if you participated in like summer internships, or if you participated in like the MARC or RISE program. You talk about like what your projects were, like what were the results of those research projects? Like, did you present at a conference? Did you present at a symposium? Did you get a publication out of that? I mean, what was the result of that experience? What did you learn from it? And how did that experience kind of help convince you to pursue a career in scientific research or pursue going into graduate school? And this is also an opportunity to elaborate like on future goals. Like maybe if you were doing some certain kind of scientific research, maybe that's why you want to pursue it even further in graduate school. Or maybe you were doing one kind of research experience and you're interested in pursuing a completely different route. The body is where you have an opportunity to highlight this. And in the body too is also why you will talk about why you're particularly applying to that graduate program. What is it about the program that interests you? Who are the faculty that you're interested in research? That you're interested in working with, and why? And conclusion is just where, once again, this is your opportunity to wrap up everything that you discussed. Once again, try and convince them why you should admit me into your program and why I deserve this opportunity to do research at the institution. So I know I've already discussed this, reasons for why you want to continue scientific research, your research projects, what was the goal of your project, what exactly did you do? So if you were working with multiple people on a project, what was your contribution? Don't talk about what other people did, talk about what you did. What did you learn? And it's not just what did you learn about the science, but what did you learn about doing research? Like, did you learn what happens when projects fail? Like, were you resilient? How did you bounce back? Did you learn about the importance of like scientific communication? Did you learn about the importance of collaborating with other people? It's not just about what you learned about the project itself, but what about like the greater experience? And potential next steps. Can you think about what the future implications of your research are, and what are some future questions if you were to continue this project? Because this would definitely come up in your interviews, which you'll hear about in 2 weeks. Publications and conference presentations. If you get any publications, it's okay if you don't. A lot of people who are applying to graduate school do not have any publications, but it is important to talk about whether you give a presentation on this. If you've gone to SACNAS, if you've gone to Abercams, if you've given a poster or an oral presentation, even if you've presented it in group meetings with other, if you meet with other faculty and you give group presentations, did you present it there? Does SF Build have a local symposium or something like that? Or I know the SF State SACNAS chapter has symposiums. Did you have opportunities to present your research? And then reiterating again, how has your past research framed your current ambitions and future research goals? Were you working on this really exciting research project in undergrad and you want to continue to pursue that particular field of research in graduate school? Why? And then once again, reiterating how you were given the opportunity to think like a scientist, and that involves, the problem solving, what happens when experiments fail, what did you do next? Critical thinking, thinking what could possibly be going on, your hypotheses. If this hypothesis doesn't work out, what other hypothesis could it be? What could it mean? What are the implications of your results? And did you work independently as part of a team? Science is very collaborative, so how did you work in those scenarios? Things to avoid. You want to avoid spending too much time on the little details. You only have 2 to 3 pages. I know there's a part in the application where you can probably upload your CV, your resume. If you participate in certain extracurricular activities, you can list them there. If you won certain awards based on your academic accomplishments, focus it on that part of the application, not so much in your personal statement. because you want to focus your personal statement more on telling your story of a little bit about your research history and then why you want to pursue a future career in research. Specific protocols are be overly technical. Do not get too detailed about how you did your experiments. I mean, you can probably talk about how I learned these specific skill sets to answer this question, but don't go into, to do a PCR, like these were all the steps that I did, and this is what I learned, like doing TC, like all these different components, like that's just going to waste time, and then that's wasting time and that's wasting valuable space in your personal statement. Yes, big picture. I think the committee cares more about what the implications of your question means for the bigger picture, not so much on like, look at all the skill sets that I learned. Do not ramble. Most people tend to write their statements of purposes sort of chronologically, because it helps the reader kind of follow your story a little bit more clearly. So that's what it means kind of by like thematic subsections. Maybe like one section could be devoted to a particular like research internship. Like what was your research project during that internship? Like how did you present that research during that internship? What did you learn from that internship? That's like one section. And then the next section could be maybe a different research experience. One section could be devoted to like what you've been doing through SF Build. One section could even be talking about maybe some of like your extracurricular experience, like in terms of like science outreach. There should be sort of a main theme for each of these sections. And be very concise and clear. Most committee members only have like 5 to 10 minutes to review your applications, so if it's not very clear, they're going to get stuck and they're not going to remember you. High school accomplishments, don't list any of them. Unless you did science research during high school, don't talk about the extracurricular activities that you were part of, what awards you won, none of that. They care about your undergraduate accomplishments. And once again, like I've mentioned, focusing too much on classroom success. I mean, they have your transcripts. There will probably be a separate section to talk about your extracurricular activities. Don't reiterate on it too much in your personal statement unless it's played a really important role in why you decided to pursue research or how it helped shape your story. Essential tips. In the statement of purpose, there tends to be a section where you talk about why you want to apply to this particular. Sorry.
Yeah. I was just going to say something about talking about classroom successes. Mm-hmm. I think that the statement of purpose can also be a great place to address like your classroom trajectory. So like for me specifically, I didn't start off really great in undergrad, and then I kind of like figured things out. And as I got involved in research, my grades got a lot better. Mm-hmm. And so addressing that in the essay, I think, was something that was really helpful. So yeah, maybe it's not good to list out like, oh, I got all straight A's, and you can see that on my transcript. But if there are parts of your transcript that you think you would like to explain, that it's totally okay to explain that in your essay.
Yes. Essential tips. You want to talk about why you're applying to that graduate school program. What is it about the program that really interests you? Who are the faculty members that you can see yourself doing research with, and why? There should be at least 3 people that you're interested in working with. If you cannot see yourself working with at least 3 faculty at a particular institution, do not apply. And the reason why I say that is maybe one faculty member that you're really interested in working with may not be taking students because their lab is full. They may not be taking students because they don't have money for you. Or maybe what seemed really great on paper on a website, you ended up doing a rotation in that lab and it didn't work out. So if you only went for 1 or 2 faculty and none of those pan out. To help you talk more about like the section and who you can see yourself working with, most labs have lab websites that tend to be updated pretty frequently, and if not, they definitely update their publications if you just go through PubMed. And definitely going like through PubMed and going through like the research section of their website kind of gives you an idea of what research they're currently working on. And also going to NIH Reporter, which is basically a website that shows what research grants that all the PIs have. Also gives you an idea of what they have funding for, what certain projects, and what they may be working on like in the future too. essential tips. You want to make sure that your statement of purpose looks tasteful to the eyes. You know, you don't want to jam like these huge like paragraphs, like one page of like where there's like no breakups. You want to have like the indentions have like white spaces between paragraphs, like bold. Maybe your publications bold when you if you want an award for a publication, if you want an award for like a presentation you gave, if you gave a presentation at a conference, like bold specific things like that, because they'll remember those things. You want to be really careful. I mean, so you're going to write multiple statements of purposes because you're going to hopefully be applying to multiple graduate schools. I think what most people have tended to do in the past is they have this really general template, and then they cater that template to different programs. I mean, they may have an opportunity to expand it or to cut it or to shorten it, but they have one general template that they're working with. Because of that, you want to be really careful to not mix up graduate programs or faculty. I mean, if you're applying to UCSF and then they see and they're saying like, I really want to work with this faculty member here at Stanford, just going to throw out your application. It's, yep, probably the biggest mistake. And just wanted to end with a couple resources, what you can do to help you help you writing your statement of purpose. Most schools tend to have like writing centers or offices. They can help you check for like phrasing, clarity, like proofreading. Have your PI or your mentors read it. Definitely, if there's graduate students in your lab, definitely have them look over your statement of purpose because they've been through the process. They know what committees are looking for, so they definitely have advice to offer. And then there's also definitely plenty of helpful like websites and slides out there. You're all going to get this presentation, so just wanted to end with that too. But that's it. Any questions?
So for when it came to mentioning faculty, you did mention should we mention? So you said have at least 3 faculty that were interested in doing research. Would you recommend mentioning all 3, or just like mentioning one person that you're most interested in?
Like all
3.
Like all the I would say like 3, 4, 5. That's it, because you tend to talk about, I'm really interested in like pursuing this particular research field, this particular like research question, and then those people that you're interested in working with should kind of be doing like working on that research question. Mm-hmm. But you can just mention, like, list them, talk briefly. You don't need to go into like, I want to work with this person because of this. I want to work with this person because of that. I want to work with this other person because of this. You don't have space for that.
Okay. And for the catering at the very end, you said cater to the institution. Mm-hmm. How would you recommend? Like, should that be most like towards the end of our statement of purpose, would you say, or should it be kind of like throughout the whole paper when it came to like catering for the institution?
I guess I don't know how other people wrote it, but I know from my statement of purposes, most of it was talking about my research experiences and what I was interested in, and I dedicated one particular paragraph to that school. Because it was still the same history, like it was still the same story that I was sharing with each of the institutions. That story didn't change. It was just what changed was how it fits in with that program.
Did you have something you wanted to say?
If any of the
I
grad
was
students
agreeing
too.
with that. I did
Yeah.
the same thing where I kept the body the same and just swapped out the last paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say you should say something in the beginning. I want to apply to X university because it has these strengths.
Yep.
And in particular, I'm applying to this department because these individuals are doing the types of research I'm interested in. I would say, yeah, also. And you can use something very generic like UCSF is world renowned for its cancer research, or something, just a sentence or two so they feel like, oh, you understand, like we are the leaders in this particular area.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
And make sure you're sending in the correct essay to the correct school, not because you're basically just like replacing the school name, but make sure you send it to the right school.
So
It happens. But
this is something you don't want to do last second, because if it's last second, you might send stuff to the wrong. institution. That's not a good look.
No.
Just make it as annoying as possible for yourself to fill in the specific like individual parts to the programs. Like I had in my last paragraph of like unique whatever catering to this program, I had parts that were supposed to be swapped out that I would just like highlight in red or be like, write name of school here in like caps and write faculty names, and that way like there's no way you can miss that unless you're just like super rushing like Sunny says and it's like last minute. But then just like fill that in, save it as a new file for that specific school. Be like, I don't know, UCSF neuroscience or whatever, tetrad, and then like, you know, Duke program, whatever. And that way you can just like really separate it and don't get confused.
So when I applied to grad school, there was always a separate research statement and then a personal statement. Is that still the case? So, or do you need to put all your research stuff into the statement of purpose?
I think it's really graduate school specific. Yeah. And I
I
think
always had two. If there are two, my approach for that was to focus on how what I had learned from the research experiences and the personal statement. So like, what did I take from it? How did I grow as a scientist from it? And then focus on like the more technical aspects of the skills I learned in the research statement, and describing the project to demonstrate that I understood what I was doing and did good work.
Yeah, usually like my my checklist for each research experience was this was the question, this is what I did, this is the outcome, and by outcome I mean this is the presentation I gave or this is the paper I wrote, and then the question, what you did, the outcome, and related to my future how. So I gave this presentation and this project made me really interested to continue working on immunology, or I gave the presentation and this project taught me what it's like to work on something and fail and learn how to get through that. Or this project helped me to realize that I want to be in a really big lab or a really small lab. Just basically anything about how that experience is going to change you in the future. And so those 4 things is pretty much what you want in that paragraph for each experience.
I totally agree with that. That's like the easiest format for people to read through, and the examples that you gave are really good for what you can get from each experience.
And it's okay to like sometimes in like summer internships, sometimes you don't have results, but you have an outcome from that internship of what you learned, like how did that helped you going forward towards your future goals.
And one other like quick tip, like for these essays, something that I found to be like helpful is actually like reading it aloud and pretending you're having a conversation with someone. And if it sounds weird what you're reading, that means you need to go back and change something. So yeah, that has definitely helped me, because I know like in the past I used to just read and then submit, and then later I read later and I'm like, oh man, I made a mistake here or there. But if I would have read it out loud, it would have saved me a lot of headache.
Include something else. I don't know if you touched on it, but avoid cliche statements. You know, like I feel like sometimes when people write like statement of purposes, it's like I think people can tell when you're just a little bit more grounded in the research and like your passion is read through, as opposed to like saying something very like, I know when people have medical school, a lot of people say I want to help the world, I want to help people, but it's like okay, so does everyone else. It doesn't really tell me anything. So I would read through and try to avoid sort of these large cliched statements and just try to keep it as authentic and grounded to you as an individual as possible, because I think sometimes the reviewer can place you. They are looking for a balance of experiences and backgrounds. So I don't know.
Yeah,
That's not very. I don't have any specific examples, but like when you see it, you know.
No, like
That's the only thing I can
great.
say.
Yeah, I think another cliche thing or something is people tend to put themselves down sometimes in their personal statements, and by means of like, I was very lucky to have this opportunity. You weren't
Yeah.
lucky, you earned that opportunity. Yeah. Like you earned that award. You weren't lucky to win the award. Yeah.
And then kind of another tip I have is like in the beginning when you're, you know, when you're kind of like introducing yourself, the more personal aspects to kind of give context to your accomplishments, that can be kind of hard sometimes. I think, you know, it can kind of be like, you know, I grew up here and then I went to college here and now I do this, and like that, you know, that's great and that's all true and wonderful. But to me, that paragraph is a chance to make the reviewer root for you. Like, what parts of yourself can you share that are going to make them root for you? Because then if they start off like on your side already, then as they go through your research experiences, they're like, yes, she did this and she did this, and oh my God, like that is how you get them in the right mindset to really appreciate everything you're going to say next. So, if anyone wants help on like trying to frame their narrative in a way that will make someone root for you, please talk to me. I like love it. So yeah.
I guess if there's no more questions,